Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the Educational AD Podcast. We're going to be right back with today's guest. But first, let's hear from our great sponsors. Now, remember, these are all companies that I used as an AD. I highly recommend that you check them out. So here we go. We want to say thanks to our good friends at Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and schedule a live web demo to see their products. That's sidelineinteractive.com. We also want to say thanks to Snap Raise. We use Snap Raise at our school, tremendous success, and so will you. It is such an easy platform and it works. Okay, go to snapraise.com. Okay, you're going to be glad you did. We also want to thank Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years. As an AD, I made sure that we were a Huddle school. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users, turn your school into a Huddle school. We also want to thank Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards or your school's Hall of Fame, check out their interactive touchscreen video consoles. Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. You're going to be glad you did. Home Campus is a platform you're going to use every day, whether it's scheduling, rosters, or results. Their athletic eligibility and clearance platform alone is a game changer. Go to Home Campus for more information. We also want to thank Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. It's reasonable, it's affordable, and while you're earning your degree, you'll also complete 11 NIAAA leadership training courses. That's Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. We want to thank Hometown for their support, whether it's fundraising, website construction, or a lot more. Go to hometown.com. ADs, coaches, principals, Hometown is going to help you raise money, save time, and bring your community together. That's hometown.com. And athletic surveys by LifeTrack. If you're not using a survey to take the pulse of your student athletes, your parents, your coaches, you're really missing out. Go to athleticsurveys.com and don't forget to mention the podcast, athleticsurveys.com. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. As we approach our 700th interview for the podcast, we're inviting back some guests from previous seasons to kind of get an update and kind of get their take on where we have been, how far we've come, and maybe where we're going. I'm really excited to have back on the podcast Craig Damon. Regular listeners will remember Craig was on the podcast a little over a year ago. He is well, first of all, he's a longtime coach and athletic director in the state of Florida. He's currently, and has been for a number of years, the executive director for the Florida High School Athletic Association. Very active in our state and nationally, I dare say. And we're excited to have him come back on. Craig Damon, welcome back to the podcast.
Jake, thank you for having me back on.
Okay. Well, it's a busy time, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. We're going to kind of do a fast forward version of our interview, but in case we have some new listeners, we do want them to have a chance to get to know who Craig Damon is. So give us your quick bio, where you were born, where you grew up. As I like to say, give us your life story in 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Born in Ocala, Florida, a graduate of North Marion High School in Citra, which I came back and started my career in education at North Marion High as an assistant coach. Worked my way up to become head coach. Also served as athletic director there at North Marion and a dean before leaving North Marion High in 2013 to join the Florida High School Athletic Association as a sport administrator. Did that for 2 years, and during those 2 years, first year was swimming, boys soccer, and softball. Second year, moved over to football, girls basketball, and track and field, and then uh, interviewed for and was hired to be in charge as associate executive director in charge of eligibility and compliance. Did that for about 7 years, and then the position came open for executive director. Interviewed, and going into year 4 now as the executive director of the Florida House Athletic Association.
Yeah, we're going to talk about those days with eligibility and compliance. That's where you and I really first met. I was
Yep.
still an athletic director, and as you would bring the compliance uh, meetings, if you will, to each section, I had a chance to sit on uh, the sectional eligibility
Yep.
committees and hear those stories. I want to jump all the way back to your school days. You were a pretty darn good athlete back in the day. What were some of your sports, and what are some of your memories of that time of your life?
Played football and baseball in high school and in college. Thinking back to some of those days, didn't realize I guess what I was missing. Being at North Marion, I think during my 4 year career there, we made the playoffs one year, my sophomore year. When I moved up from JV, we played Orlando Jones first round of the playoffs in Camping World Stadium. And they had a running back by the name of Leon Perry that played for the University of Oklahoma that just ran us all up and down the field. So again, of a 4 year span between baseball and football, only have an opportunity to play in the postseason one time. Really didn't know what the playoffs was like, from a high school standpoint until I became a coach. And then from the coaching standpoint, that was always been a goal to make the playoffs and so forth. And got exposed to it as a coach more so than a player. Was fortunate enough to get an academic scholarship, an athletic scholarship to Lenoir-Rhyne University in Hickory, North Carolina, where I played. I had a football scholarship there, Division two school. But after my freshman year, chose to play baseball. So played baseball at Lenoir-Rhyne for 3 years and football all 4 years while I was there. So that's
What
sort of the
oh, go
athletic
ahead.
side
Yeah.
of it.
I was going to say, we're recording this on the eve of the World Series for our listeners. I didn't play baseball. That's I was into track.
Mhm.
I couldn't hit the ball, fastball or curveball. But for you, what's a baseball story? I don't think a lot of people associate Craig Damon to baseball. What was your highlight at Lenore Ryan as a baseball player?
Highlighted Lenoir-Rhyne. Couple home runs. I would say probably the most interesting story is that never thought I was going to play baseball at college, just to be a football player. However, being a Florida boy and going off to school in North Carolina where the winter's a little bit different than here in Florida. During the spring, during spring, there's always the off-season conditioning for football players. And like any other university football players, we would get up and we would have to walk from our freshman dorm to the gym for morning workouts. And 5 o'clock in the morning, it's 25, 30 degrees, sometimes snow, ice on the ground. Um, did it that first year, you're going to the gym, you're running, you're doing all kind of agilities, you're super tired, you're hanging over a trash can, and then you're required to go to breakfast and then attend classes afterwards. Sort of got smarter, I guess, so to speak. Knew I could play baseball, so spoke to the baseball coach after my freshman year about possibly coming out for the team in the spring. So made the baseball team my sophomore year, and those same mornings, my roommates and other teammates from the football team were getting up to go do morning workouts and conditioning. I was nice and comfortably in my bed, warm, waiting for classes. So that was probably one of the, I guess, funny stories about Craig, how Craig got involved in baseball at the college level. It wasn't I guess a thing that was a plan to start with. It was to play football, but however, those cold mornings of morning conditioning sought me in another direction to avoid the cold weather a little bit.
I'm sure you're not the first, Florida, recruit to come to that type of realization in a cold weather climate.
But it
I,
was definitely that first year was a shock. It was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy going to get yelled at and run for an hour and conditioning, and you have to walk through the cold to get there and so forth. It's like, nope. Did it once and don't want to do that a second time.
one more question from this era: as you were completing your degree, what was it always a plan to, be a teacher, be a coach? Was that what you were thinking, or did that just kind of happen?
That just kind of happened. I started out at college wanting to be an electrical engineer because in high school, you look at the various careers and it was about, well, if I don't make it to the NFL, I want to have a job that makes a lot of money. And electrical engineers were folks that made a lot of money back in the 80s. So the late 80s. So it was like, oh, okay, that's where I would go. However, that freshman year in college, taking calculus, that first semester, failed calculus. Second semester, taking calculus again and adding physics and failed those two. It sent me to the business administration journey, and that was a little bit something that I felt a little bit more comfortable with, and was able to do well in business courses and graduate with a business degree, a degree in business administration. And when I returned home, it was like, okay, where do I go to work at? With a business degree, you need to be in a big city, and where there's lots of commerce and trade and business going on, where some of the large companies was there. And again, being from a small town, Spar, Florida, outside of Ocala, interviewed in Tampa, interviewed in Jacksonville for a couple of jobs, but just didn't feel right, and ended up playing baseball with one of the little local teams here, semi-pro teams, and the guy that was the owner also was the warden of the Florida Correctional Institute. So offered me a job there doing accounting for 2 years, and did that for 2 years. And while I was there, one of my offensive line coach that was at Northburn High asked if I'd be interested in coaching Little League football. I said, sure, I'd give it a try. Never thought that I wanted to be a coach, but just to be around kids and have some fun. Did that for a year. Shelton Cruz, who's the executive of the Coaches Association, he was the head coach at North Marion at the time, saw me coaching, saw me interacting with kids, offered me a job at the high school level as an assistant on the varsity level. And that's sort of how I got my introduction to education, sort of in a roundabout way. It definitely wasn't a plan coming out of high school. My mom and several other relatives were in the education system, and we'll see them going to work and see the stuff they had to deal with as far as kids and parents. And that was not an option that I thought I would end up in. But who knows, sometimes you have your thoughts of where you think you want to go, but you end up where you're supposed to be.
Well, I think I'd heard that story before about, Shelton Cruz. Now it's ironic, or it's great that now both of you are the executive director of your respective organizations. You're the
Yeah.
executive director for FHSAA. Shelton is the longtime executive director for our Florida Athletic Coaches Association. Very cool. For our listeners, we're doing a couple of these interviews as we approach 700 without commercial breaks. You know that I've got great commercials or great sponsors. I used every single one of them as an AD. They're national companies, but they are great companies. So please, if you're not currently using one of them, check them out. I think you'll be glad you did. Craig, let's go ahead and talk about making that jump from local school to the FHSAA. Was there something about that position coming on board as a sports administrator that appealed to you? Did somebody at the FHSAA reach out and say, "Hey, Craig, have you ever thought about this?" How did that all happen?
It's interesting. A mentor of mine, one of our former principals, basketball coach in Marion County, a longtime school board member, Bobby James. He would encourage me as I was coming up to the coaching profession, like, listen, he sit down, have a conversation with him. He was a principal, and then when he rolled up into school board member, it's like, listen, as a coach, as a young coach, you tend to think that you want to coach until your last breath, and that, when you pass away, you want to have your funeral there in the gym or in the stadium, because that's where your life's at. And he's like, you got to think outside of that. You got to think bigger than that. And he motivated me as assistant coach to pursue being the head coach. When I was head coach, he motivated me to be an athletic director. It was like, you have a circle of impact. Circle of impact maybe started out as a small circle, and like you're doing very well with that small circle. So now you need to try to expand that circle a little bit. It's like a little small pond, and you go to a little bit bigger section. So when I became AD, uh, a conversation started about the football team and the success we're having in football. It's like, well, you're having a great impact on the football team. Have you thought about becoming the athletic director and expanding that to all the sports at your school? I had a little hesitance, but I did. And sort of listened to him and moved on to that. And he actually, before joining the association, as a sport administrator, talked to me about possibly becoming a school administrator and to get in the pool and get to pursue my master's degree in education leadership, and to possibly become assistant principal or principal, where again, expanding that impact. You have opportunity to have a positive impact on the lives of others. So you want to keep expanding that so you can reach more people. So start looking at the education administration route a little bit. And I was at a dean's training, just happened to be out of the blue. It was late July, early August, on the pre-planning of teachers when they come back before the kids come back, and was on at a we were that year we were converting from paper referrals to digital referrals. So we were all at one of the schools getting trained on how to use the new digital referrals. And we was on a break. We came back from lunch break, and of course, as an AD, I always was looking at the FHSAA website to see what was due, what was coming due, so you could sort of plan. And just happened that day, I clicked on the page, and a job opening that was posted there. Looked at it and was like, just curiosity made me open it up. Looked at it and started looking at some of the qualifications. And the more I looked, I'm like, okay, start checking boxes. I have this, I have that, and so forth. So came home, talked to my wife about it, and then applied, and just like, let's just see what happens. I'm here as AD, head football coach at my alma mater. Have a great job, but let's just see what happens. And have got an interview. And it's funny, the we were actually the Thursday leading up to our fall classic. We were playing one of the schools here in Marion County, Lake Ware, and we were sitting in there that Thursday after school in the equipment room, a couple coaches and a couple players just laying out the jerseys, getting ready for game day the next day. And Justin Harrison called me, and it was didn't know his number. It's a 352 number, 372 number from Gainesville. Didn't recognize the number. And at first, I was a little hesitant about answering, but I answered the call, and he's like, "Hey, it's Justin Harrison from the association. Do you have a second?" It's like, "Sure." So here I am with 6, 7 of my players, a couple coaches. Nobody knew how to apply for the job, and so I had to go outside to talk on the phone. Offered me the job, and it's like, "Well, do you need some time to think about it?" I was like, "No, I already had talked to my wife before I applied, so we were already in agreement if I was offered the job that I was going to take it." So accepted the job that Thursday, and then the problem came. Okay, I can't. I didn't want to leak out before I told the whole team or I told my coaches. So my wife knew about it. I talked to Ed McPadden. He knew about it because he'd already got a call as a reference from the association. So really only a handful of people knew that I accepted the job, and then the problem came, or the issue came, challenge came to keeping it a secret until after we played the game, that classic on Friday night. So sitting in the locker room that Friday, actually my office that Friday, I called Matt Johnson, who was my defense coordinator, and I talked to the principal about him being the interim head coach, until they could hire somebody. Talking to him about it, and we're sitting and looking out the window, and the sports editor for Keller Star Banner walks by my office. And North Marion Lakeward game was not the marquee game of Marion County in football. Vanguard Forest is the marquee game that typically the sports editor goes to, and one of the other assistants come and cover our game. And I see this guy walk by my office. I'm like, why is he coming here? Coming to our game? Well, it's not the marquee game. And so he comes in the office and is like, hey, Craig, you got something you want to tell me? I was like, no. It's like, so you think you could take a job and me not finding out about it? And it's like, well, so at that point in time, he knew about it. My announcer of the game, he walked by and saw all of us in the office, because he usually comes up after school and hangs out a little bit with us. And it's like, what's going on? Why is there all these people here? So told him about it. And it's like, okay, when the game's over with, when the game's over, can you have the parents come out on the field, with me so I can tell everybody at one time? And my administration was great there at North Marion. They knew when the game was over to keep the parents off the field so that I could have a personal conversation with our players. And then once I dismissed the players, then the parents came on the field and talked to their kids. So the game was over. I'm still standing there waiting, and Bruce, my announcer, he announces, "Hey, parents, Coach Damon would like for you guys to come on the field." And they stood at the gates, would not come on the field. So I'm sitting there like, seems like 2 hours, but it was probably about 3 or 4 minutes. And I'm like, okay, can you please have people come on the field? And at that point in time, I announced that, I was leaving in 2 weeks to assume a job up at the association, and ended up playing our probably two biggest rivalries in Marion County. Ocala Forest, the first game, which we won, and then Ocala Vanguard, which is definitely a huge battle in Marion County between North Marion and Vanguard, was my last game before joining the association.
Wow. I'd kind of heard the general outline of that story before, but thanks for sharing those details. Just had to be a million emotions, going on with that.
Big time.
Did the crowd take it well?
They were shocked. There was lots of tears, shit on the field. But then, like I said, the Vanguard game, we go to play Vanguard the Friday, my last game, and of course it's storming. Lightning. We have a lightning delay. I'm more than happy just to say, okay, y'all come back and play on Monday without me. And the coach and Vanguard wanted to play. No, we're gonna play this night. And we were the team we had that year. We had a bunch of sophomores starting for us, so we were really young. And for us, probably a rainy. The game was to our advantage with it raining because we didn't have the quarterback or the receivers that Vanguard had at the time to compete with them. So we were going to depend on the run game a lot, and they throw the ball quite a bit. So it was to their advantage to wait till Monday when it was clear to play the game, but they insisted that we play. We didn't start the game until probably 9:30 that night. Played and we ended up winning 21-20. We blocked the extra point to win the game, and that was I think we ended up with my wife and family going to the ale house to celebrate. About we got there about 11:30. It was just that late for the game to get over, but it was great experience, lots of emotions, lots of great memories there at the school, lots of experiences that helped prepare me for where I am today.
Oh no, absolutely. Boy, tons of great memories. Um, Once again, for our listeners, we're doing these episodes as we near 700 without commercial breaks, but I do want to give a shout out to my sponsors because they are great companies that I used. Go and see Gipper, go see Sideline Interactive, Home Campus, Vital Signs Wall of Fame, Snap, Raise. Want to encourage you to go see Huddle, Athletic Surveys, Hometown, and also Ohio University and their online masters. Craig, I'm going to go ahead and jump into this segment. You've been the executive director at FHSA now for, I guess, this is going on your fourth year, or we're
Going
currently in
for year
year
four.
four.
Mhm.
You were already on staff for a number of years. You were the director of eligibility and compliance. There a ton of stories I could ask you about from our eligibility hearings, but we're not going to do that. Um, Looking at your tenure as the executive director, coming out of COVID, obviously huge impact across the nation, here in Florida as well. How have we, the profession of athletic administration, have we, and you can throw FHSA in there too, how have we gotten better? What are some things that, and again, maybe COVID forced us to do this and we figured it out and said, hey, this is pretty good, or just what are some things that we're doing better than we were 4 years ago? What are some things that maybe we still need to improve on? And where do you think we're going as a profession? I know that's a very loaded, broad question, but I'm still going to throw it at you.
Well, one of the things I would say right off the bat is with ticketing, digital ticketing. Back during COVID, with exchanging cash and so forth, where people could purchase tickets online and the digital platform with tickets, that is something that, at first folks never thought about at the high school level or scholastic level, having digital tickets. You were used to just walking up, getting a paper ticket, paying cash for it. But the use of credit cards to purchasing online, that is something that has been huge. It's funny that, you think about ticket sales during COVID or right after COVID when we returned to sports with limited attendance. Some of the executive directors that I spoke to over the years talked about an increase in less tickets were sold, but they made more money. So they didn't know what was happening in between, but even with limited attendance, they were making more money off of the revenue off of ticket sales. So that's something that I think that has definitely taken off from COVID. Just the cashless, not have for as a school not having to worry about going to the bank. They have change. So if your tickets were, not on an even number of five or 10, $5 or $10, you have to worry about having lots of ones and running out of ones and so forth, and having to carry cash over to the safe after the game with an officer or going to the bank to make a deposit. those are all great benefits that, purchasing tickets online and using credit cards has just taken off. I think a lot of our schools now are using selling prom tickets via online. They're doing, I think some of our schools I've heard are even using the lunch, using the lunch line through online ticketing where you can put money on a card or whatever else and just debit it off via online services. So that's one thing that I've seen that has been great for after COVID, online meetings. I mean, before COVID, if you met, it was in person, where people were traveling and taking up time, so having to work on folks' schedules and trying to make sure you found a common date and time that you could meet in person. Now with Zoom online, you can meet at any point in time. It's now just a matter of time finding an hour or 2 hour window that you can meet as opposed to a full day, because with some folks having to travel from across the state, it made it difficult. So we have noticed just from within the FHSAA that our attendance with committees and meetings, so forth, have been higher. The percentage has been a higher attendance rate based on folks not having to travel. Because again, if I'm coming from Miami, I got to leave a day early, spend the night, and then by the time the meeting's over, I drive back home. I miss 2 days of school or 2 days on campus. And as an AD or a coach or whoever, whatever role you play, 2 days could be a lot. It could take you 2 weeks to catch up, based on 2 days. So those are two benefits that I've greatly seen. Just awareness of making sure proper hygiene, washing your hands, taking precautions. It just probably brought us back down there to make us be a little bit more responsible in the way we do things.
Uh, No, I think those are probably two, of the biggest ones, and I don't think you can overstate, the positive impact that they've had. I've heard the same thing from individual ADs. I won't mention the schools, but they said, yeah, we started making so much more money off of the digital ticketing, and I wonder why. What was going on? Um, Let's go and jump. I know I told you I was going to ambush you with sportsmanship, but we'll come back to that. Let's go and talk about NIL. Now, I know you talk to people across the country. I certainly visit with a lot of ADs from other states, and I tell them that here in Florida, at the high school level, we've had the transfer portal for a long time.
Mhm.
We're not in favor of it. It's a state statute, and but we live with it. But NIL, just like it is for other states, is new. Here's my question. There is at least one state that I know is in the news, state association, for digging its heels in and saying, no NIL at the high school level. You can't do it. And they're already being challenged in the courts by parents. Big surprise.
Mhm.
There's another state that has an NIL. I think it's a recommendation. It's not even a policy. And there are things happening in that state with third party entities making partnerships with schools and school districts that have other school districts going, what the heck's going on? So each state, has its own association. So I know the FHSAA, I think, was one of the earlier states to come out with an actual policy. How is it working? I'm not going to hold you to exact numbers. How many student athletes, percentage wise, have any kind of NIL deal that you are aware of? And again, you're not monitoring them. It's kind of the individual school district that does it. And um, this will be the last nugget I throw in there. I just today did an interview with a couple of ADs from another state, let's say a neighboring state, and this was from a single county. And this is what the county AD told me. Um, they have 13,000 student athletes in their county high school. 12 of them have some kind of NIL deal. And they're, except for one, they're almost, gifts in kind, etc.
Mhm.
And none of them are over, $5,000. Okay. So what's going on in Florida with NIL?
Florida, we're just like any other states. I can share numbers, and our numbers are definitely not accurate. I'm not naive to know that these numbers aren't accurate. When it was put in place, State Board of Education wanted us to at least put something in place where to try to help protect our schools. And so we put in the GA1 form, which is basically it has the first three is 3 pages long. The first 2 pages is the rule. So people understand exactly what the bylaw states, what state statute states, and so forth. So that way they understand what the penalties are going to be and so forth. So we wanted the parents to have that in physically, tangibly, where they could touch it and could refer to it to make sure that they were in compliance. The second page is the top part is for the student and the parent to fill out. It's just basic general information about who the student is, what school they attend. It's optional if they put who the company they have an NIL deal with. And then the bottom of the page is for the school, whether it's the public school, private school, and so forth, to say, yes, we give permission for the kid to use our name, our image, our jersey, uniform to be on our campus. No, they don't. Because again, our policy says that in order to use school name, you must have permission from either the school district or if it's a private school, the governing body of that private school or charter school. So all we were looking for, not to try to collect, no one asked how much money to get anything. And last year, first year it was in place, we had a total of 33 that were turned into us, which I know that number is nowhere near accurate. Because I personally know some kids that I've seen stuff on that have NIL deals that definitely have not seen the name come across. So far this year, I think that number is trending towards the same. And we tried to put out there through word of mouth and other things that it's not a I got you type deal, this GA1. It's just a protection for you to make sure that you know what the rules are so you don't violate the rules and put yourself in a position where eligibility could be jeopardized, not just at the high school level, but at the collegiate level also, because some of these things that someone could be telling you or you could be receiving may violate NCAA or NAIA rules, and you don't want to put yourself in that type of predicament. But there's the speaking with some folks at IMG who have tend to have a little bit higher level athletes, and ha one of the things they shared with me that it's been a little we really don't have anything to stop it from happening is that with the revenue share that's starting next year or it started with at the collegiate level and so forth, and kids getting contracts based on their value to the program. What I was told is that some of our universities are front loading these contracts because it doesn't count towards the salary cap for next year when these seniors get on campus. So I think the 21 million or whatever that number is that colleges or universities have as a cap for sharing money with their athletes and sort of paying the athletes. For example, Jake, you're an athlete that's recruited by a major university, and they look at your value and determine that you're worth $100,000 once you get on to university. What I'm hearing, and I have no proof of it, but what I've been told is that some of the universities are front loading the contracts, and they may pay you $70,000 while you're in high school as a senior, and pay you 30,000 when you get to college. Well, only 30,000 counts towards that 21 million instead of the whole 100,000. So until the NCAA, do some things to put some guardrails in place, some of those things are occurring where it may not be an NIL deal that the kid is getting, but they're getting part of their contract money while they're in high school, as opposed to getting it when they get on these campuses over the summer or during the fall. And that's something like I said, they're not getting paid to play. It's not an NIL deal, so it's not violating the amateurism rule. So right now, when I look at our bylaws and policies, we have nothing that prevents that from happening. And I hope at some point in time, the NCAA put some things in place and say, no, it doesn't matter when you give the kid the money, it counts towards the year that the kid is actually in school. If what I've heard is correct.
Wow, I had not heard that, but it's certainly, I mean, I guess it's a logical step in what we're seeing here. You use the word guardrails, and that same athletic director that I spoke with that had 13,000 student athletes, but only 12 had NIL deals. Um, he talked about guardrails, and he said if you don't have guardrails, you've got ditches, and so it's hard to
Mhm,
get out of the ditch. And
mhm.
that would be an interesting, you know, I guess ditch. Because you're right. There's nothing in the FHSA handbook that says, college X can't give high school student athlete, $100,000 to come to our school.
Yeah.
That's a recruiting violation. It's not a state association violation. I guess unless we're going to call that, income of some sort. Interesting.
Hmm.
Wow. Let's. Good thing we have guardrails, or we probably would have ended up in the ditch. Um, let's go and talk about sportsmanship. I know that um, you guys, the FHSA has done a tremendous job these many, many years educating ADs, coaches, principals, student athletes, everybody on education-based athletics. The important place that sportsmanship has in the high school experience, and yet, and I know you're frustrated by this, ejections continue to rise. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but I heard you speak at the last conference. Player ejections are up, coaches ejections are up. Um, I did speak with a Florida AD. I'm going to protect his name until we're off air, who said that they've got a policy in their county that seems to be working, and it's education, but there's got to be some enforcement with it.
Hmm.
Where I guess, what would you grade us as a state right now on ejections, and how, I'm throwing it back to you, how can we get better?
It's not lack of effort, but we are probably, I would say, a C or C minus right now with sportsmanship. It's pretty, it's going in the opposite direction. Actually, speaking at the Senate K through 12 Education Committee in November. Senator Simon invited me to come talk about some issues that the FHSA is facing, and that's the top one that I'm going to bring up with them is sportsmanship. It's our numbers have gone up drastically every year. The number of students, the number of coaches, the number of administrators, school administrators, principals, assistant principals that have been ejected from contests for unsportsmanlike behavior. The number of level three suspensions, which is level three suspension, is up to a year. I mean, it went from I was looking doing numbers today on a chart from about 20, 30 back in 2021 to I think we're up to almost 80 last year. And so far this year, I think we have on pace to have 20, 30 so far just from fall this year. And it's a trying to put our finger on what the cause is behind it. We've reached out to actually Sheldon Cruz and the FACA and Andy Childs at the FIAAA. We've all sort of rallied the tents to get rally the wagons together and say, what can we do from a proactive standpoint, not coming and talking to folks about here's the penalties, but trying to provide resources for ways of preventing it from happening in the first place. And so at this past fall winter sports clinic and during the fall at the FACA clinic, Robbie Lindemer from our office, along with Sheldon Cruz and a couple others, we got up and talked about some things that we can do as coaches to be proactive to try to prevent these things from happening. For example, if a kid gets in a fight, if you allow fights in practice and scuffles and pushing and shoving and so forth, kids expect that it will be allowed in the contest, and now they get ejected because it's something that we didn't pay attention to in practice. So that's one of the things we're doing. We've tried looking at what's different today compared to 10 years ago or 5 years ago. Um, we all see it on the news was probably as lack of respect or as divisive as I've ever seen us in this world ever, so at least in my lifetime. That plays into it. And our kids look at what we do, what they see on TV, what they see how I talk to folks or how you talk to folks as a coach. And a lot of times we forget that they're watching. They're watching what we do more than they're listening to what we say. And we tell them one thing, this is why we expect them that, but then they see how we yell at official or how our parents yelling at officials and so forth. And it's like, okay, well, what do I do? I hear what you're saying, but I see what you do. And they're mimicking what they see us do. And so we, as adults, all of us in our roles have got to model what we expect from our students because they will follow, and they are following exactly what they see us do. We've had more parents possibly put their hands on officials, put their hands on other kids, coaches, and so forth in the recent years. It just each time we get ejection reports, just sort of cringe of what you're going to read on that's happening on there. So um, I'm talking to county ADs and some ADs of some of our schools. Um, School choices, I guess, in our tuition students, for example, plays a role into it because when that kid doesn't physically attend your school, doesn't feel that there's physical consequences that could happen for their actions because I attend that school, they are more apt to do things. I was talking with Latoya down in Miami-Dade, and she was sharing just looking at some rejections that they had last year, and she thought probably 40% of the ejections were kids that didn't even attend their school. So there's that. Typically, with a kid attending your school, you have that threat of suspension or in-school suspension or detention or something. When those kids don't attend your school, they're just coming to play sports. Really, the only choice is to kick them off the team, and sometimes it may not have rose to that level where you dismiss a kid from the team. Type of disciplinary actions on. Another thing that we've identified is the number of off-campus coaches that we have now. I mean, this back when I started coaching, I would say probably 70, 80% of our coaches in 93 worked at that school. They were there on campus all day long. You know, the principal got to see those coaches all day long. The AD saw them. We have conversations throughout the day. Now, I'll probably say 70% of our coaches don't work on campus and show up at 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon for practice. Principal's gone. AD may be there if there's an athletic event going on, but may not be there, and they're just that's not their primary job. Their primary job is somewhere else. So they tend to say what they want to say because okay, dude, I'm just getting paid a couple $100s for doing this. This is not supporting my livelihood, my family. So if they fire me, okay, it's no big deal. Somebody else will hire me to go coach. And like I said, that's a thing that we've saw. And I think another thing too, just with the requirements and the pressures put on our school administrators, principals, and superintendents as far as school grades and school accountability and the ability to hire teachers that are not certified in the area, those non-certified folks, or out of field coaches, out of field teachers, and so forth, has limited who could be on campus. And now, in order to coach a sport or to have a sport, they're turning to club coaches. And at the club level, I might get ejected from a contest, but I paid my money. I'm only out for the ring of that contest. I'm back the next game, and I'm coaching and I'm playing. There's no penalty that falls after. So the the number of kids and coaches that are involved in club at the club level, and until the club puts some rules in place where hey, if you get ejected, you're gone for the rest of the tournament. It it makes it hard. It's a hard fight for us. We're going to continue fighting that fight because again, we're trying to create uh, citizens, young students that are going to be citizens in our community that are going to be responsible and accountable and respectable. So we got to keep fighting that fight, but it makes it extremely hard when there's so much. It's not the same level when they go play club because okay, I get ejected for fighting. I'm out that game, and unless it's something major, I'm back coaching or back playing the next game, next contest of the tournament. So there's really not a consequence except for maybe inning or two or a quarter of a game that I might sit out of, and it's not that same direct impact when it comes to a game suspension or a week suspension or even up to a year suspension that may come down from our office.
Yeah, again, those are all, very real, very legitimate challenges. As an athletic director for many years here in Florida, I lived those challenges, trying to find those quality coaches. And I guess I do a presentation now. Actually, I do several, but one, it's for ADs, and the theme is that what's your line in the sand? What's your line in the sand for your coach's behavior? And I
Mhm.
give a bunch of examples from different sports, a lot from when I was a high school basketball official. Um, but the coach definitely is the key. Okay, if that in basketball, if that referee makes that just awful call, I've certainly made a couple in my career, or no call, and
Yeah.
everybody in the gym they know that that was a blown call.
Yeah.
If the coach just says, all right, get back on defense or whatever it is, the players follow, the fans follow. Oh, geez, coach didn't do anything. Must be okay. And if the coach is yelling and screaming and throwing a clipboard, then the kids and the parents are going to be the same way. So I asked the ADs, what is your line in the sand for your coach's behavior? Hopefully it's a pretty good, healthy line in the sand.
Mhm.
Um, Craig, we could go on and on and on. And again, I want to emphasize the tremendous work that you and your staff do in the area of education for ADs, coaches, student athletes, parents, fans in this area. It's a challenge, no question about it, but hopefully we can continue to see some progress in this area and see the ejections coming down. Athletic directors, if you're listening to this, okay, coach your coaches. Okay, let's take this as a challenge, and we can do better. We can do a lot better. Craig, we're going to go and let you out with another visit to the athletic director's toolbox. Now, when you were on originally, you gave us your three suggestions. Maybe you're going to give us three new ones, or maybe they're going to be the same. But let's go and take a quick break. If you're listening, you're not going to notice it, but I'm going to say anyway, please come back and join us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. Well, it's that time of the podcast. We've been visiting again with Craig Damon. He's the executive director of the Florida High School Athletic Association, longtime Florida resident, student athlete, coach, teacher, athletic director, and he's been with our state association for a number of years. Tremendous background, does a tremendous job in a very tough leadership role. But right now, I'm going to challenge him again to give us three tools for a brand new athletic director. So, Craig, second time around, what three tools are going to go into your new AD toolbox?
Number one, be involved, get engaged. Don't sit back, get involved. The more involved you can get, the more you learn, more you interact and hear how other folks are doing things. So there's an opportunity to be on an advisory committee, an opportunity to be on a section appeals committee, on the board or our representative assembly, whatever opportunity you have to be involved, get involved because you learn so much more and you actually get to see behind the scenes what takes place in some of the decisions that are made. So that would probably be my number one thing is to get involved. Number two, ah, number two, just so I can work on number three. Number two, definitely get the athletic director's hand toolbox book because it is a great resource. Lots of experience and lots of folks, some very knowledgeable folks have shared information and bits and pieces in there that you can take and sort of customize it and make it your own, but lots of resources there for you. And thirdly, engage. Um, Make some time for yourself. Make sure that you take time to recharge yourself. A lot of times you're running 1,000 different directions, covering events, uh, getting blamed for things that you have nothing to do with because of what may happen in a sport and so forth. But make sure you take some time for yourself to refresh yourself because if you're operating on E, you're not good to anybody, not even yourself or any of your teams or your programs. So make sure you take some time that when it's your time to be away and off and refreshed, that you shut everything down, you turn it off a little bit, and you focus and you recharge so that you can better serve your school.
Boy, well, thank you again for the shout out for the toolbox books, but great, great suggestions, and the whole getting involved thing. Um, that's I owe everything that I think I was able to accomplish as an athletic director, and then beyond as a leader in Florida, was due to my getting involved with the FIAAA and FHSAA through the encouragement from Dan Como, longtime AD up in the Port St. Lucie area, who's just opening up a brand new school. He retired, but they brought him back in. So absolutely getting involved, volunteering, serving on committees, great stuff. And the self-care. I think athletic directors and coaches are probably some of the worst examples of that, but it is so very important. Craig, if one of our listeners wanted to reach out, find out more about how they can get involved, or maybe just pick your brain a little bit, what's the best way that they can get a hold of Craig Damon?
Email is probably the best way. Either cdamon@fhsaa.org or cdamon at fhsaa.org is the best way. I'm trying to think the executive director is another one, but if you go to our website and click under About Us and go to staff, the email is there as well as my office number is there and available for you.
Well, Craig, thanks again for coming back on. Thanks for your support of the podcast. Thanks for all that you and your staff do here in Florida, and I dare say even nationwide. I think the FHSA has a pretty big footprint nationally, and
Yes, we
hopefully
do.
we'll see you down the road at the next FHSAA compliance seminar.
Yes, sir. All right, you take care.
Hey, for our listeners, we want to say thanks to you and remind you we upload the Zoom recordings of every interview to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We do this just about every day. We try to share stories along with some best practices. So please join us next time on the Educational AD Podcast.